welcome to Tenebrous Tingles. I'm Eve here with Zandi, and we are in Kentucky today. Not physically, although we have been, but we are talking about stories from Kentucky. And I have the Shaker Village of Pleasant Hill and the Harrington Lake Monster. What do you have, Zandi?
I am going to be doing the Waverly Hills Sanatorium and Mammoth Cave.
Fun.
We've both been to Mammoth Cave, so there's that.
Yes, it's a cool
It's a very
place.
cool place.
I remember I wore a dress and like these little flat shoes to go on the tour. And so it was very drafty
I wore flip
in my
flops,
summer dress.
so
And I destroyed my shoes. Like the shoes were thrown out on the way home. Like they were garbage. Did your flip flops
they
survive?
did. They did survive, but uh, I think I needed a new pedicure after that.
Okay, so we prepare pretty much the same for that then.
Yeah, I wasn't wearing a dress, but that's just because I am incapable of sitting like a lady or existing like a lady,
Well, I mean that's not a requirement to wear a dress, but you know.
flashing the world my undies. You know, not intentionally. That's the problem.
Wrong podcast, Sandy. Get it together.
Sorry, sorry.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first.
Do it.
So, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium in 1883, Major Thomas A. Hayes purchased the land. His daughter's teacher, Lizzie Lee Harris, named the local schoolhouse Waverly School after Sir Walter Scott's novels. The name stuck and eventually evolved into Waverly Hills. In 1910, a two-story wooden frame sanatorium opened to treat a severe tuberculosis outbreak in Jefferson County. It had about 40 to 50 beds. Between 1912 and 1914, the hospital opened for advanced cases nearby, followed by a children's pavilion in 1914 that cared for sick children and those whose parents were too ill. So, not just ill children, but um, parents, children who needed watching, like almost like a babysitting type situation because their parents were ill, which is really nice when you think about it, especially in
I mean, it,
1914.
it sounds
Yeah.
idyllic.
So in 1926, the most iconic building was built, the massive five-story concrete building. It still stands today. It could house over 400 patients and was designed to be a self-sufficient community with its own post office and farmland. In 1926, a 500-foot long tunnel was built to discreetly transport supplies and, more crucially, the bodies of the deceased. At the peak of the outbreak, death rates were so high that seeing the dead being carried out in full view of patients was deemed bad for morale. This became known as the body chute or death tunnel. The sanatorium closed in 1961 as a TB hospital due to the success of the antibiotic streptomycin, which made long-term quarantine and treatment largely unnecessary. In 1962, the building reopened as the Woodhaven Geriatric Center with a nursing home for the elderly and a facility for people with intellectual disabilities. It was eventually closed in 1981 by the state due to severe issues with understaffing, overcrowding, and reports of patient neglect. The building was sold multiple times, but faced local opposition. One plan was to turn it into a prison, another was to construct the world's tallest statue of Jesus on the roof, but it was canceled after raising only $3,000 towards the project. And these failed things happened between 1983 and 1997. In 2001, the current owners, Charlie and Tina Mattingly, purchased the property and began restoration efforts. They host the annual haunted house, offer public and private ghost tours, and the site has been featured on numerous paranormal TV shows. The building's grim history, combined with the thousands of deaths from both the TB hospital and the nursing home, is what fuels its reputation as one of the most haunted places in America, and perhaps the most haunted place in Kentucky. Given this history, it's no surprise that there are many tales of hauntings within the sanatorium. The body suit is known as one of the most chilling parts of a hospital or the sanatorium. I,
There's no way for that not to leave creeps behind. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's just like I understand they didn't want people to be seen carried out all the time, but there's dignity in that, and
there is. The tunnels,
there's just no way for that not to have bad vibes after
yeah,
that.
and even tunnels that aren't related to anything negative are going to give you wonky vibes. And so the death rate at Waverly Hills was so high as it was considered to be as many as one patient per hour. And the sight of this many bodies being carried out was kind of devastating to the living patients who weren't really going to be able to get better when they're seeing people die. There's a mental portion to healing that any medical professional will tell you that they have seen healthy people just give up and not live. Well, not healthy people, but people who should have survived just give up, and people who shouldn't really have survived go on due to strength of will. So morale is very important for healing.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
So the doctors figured that having a way to keep this more quiet was very important for the overall treatment of the patients at the facility. So to combat all of this and maintain a facade of hope and recovery, they built a 500-foot long tunnel. It sloped down from the first floor to the bottom of the hill. And of course, it had both a discreet body removal and the supply delivery. So it also served a practical purpose in bringing stuff up from the bottom of the facility to the top of the hill, which, that's great. There was not a literal chute where bodies were dropped. It's just a concrete tunnel with a cart system that could move supplies and to deceased. During World War II,
Yeah, that's much better than what I was envisioning.
yeah, yeah,
Still not lovely,
no,
but yeah, I had a whole like laundry chute situation in my head
no, because it's
of
called
what
that. I
was
did too when I first read. I'm like, the what? But no, it's actually just yeah, with a cart and everything. And during World War II, the tunnel was even used as an air raid shelter. Today, it is considered one of the most intensely active locations for paranormal investigators. It's a combination of the grim history and the sheer number of deaths, along with the location. Many people kind of believe it's charged with dark energy. The Death Tunnel has become something of a staple for paranormal television shows and even inspired a horror movie called Death Tunnel. This is sort of like the Bat Bob Mackey kind of situation where you just, which we didn't do. Neither one of us chose to do Bob Mackey. It's just too much TV, I guess. But again, the tunnel itself has shown up on various television shows. So it's kind of a thing. So it's kind of function is a stark reminder of the desperate measures taken during the TB epidemic, and it's a key reason why Waverly Hills maintains its reputation. Some of the more compelling accounts involve named spirits that seem to interact with the living. These aren't all found in the death tunnel. These are all throughout Waverly Hills. So some of these are the ghost of Timmy. He's the most famous spirit, and it's said to be a young boy named Timmy, or at least called Timmy. He is said to have fallen to his death from the roof, and
oh.
visitors,
So how did he get started getting called Timmy? Like,
AVP,
how did they choose that? Okay, and do they have historical documentation for that fall?
I don't know. I couldn't find anything about the whether or not there was an actual child that had fallen from the roof. I know that they did house children, and he is one of the more famous children, one of the more famous spirits. So I don't know if his name was actually Timmy. I don't know if anybody ever actually fell from the roof. I don't know if any children died there from anything other than tuberculosis. But he does respond to Timmy on EVPs, and by very frequently, if you roll him a ball, he will roll it back to you down the hallway. He's considered to be a very playful spirit. People hear him giggling as well. There is also the creeper, which is not as cute. He is a
I was just like, he sounds playful
yep.
too.
Mm-mm. He is a large non-human shadow entity, and he's been seen climbing walls and ceilings on the fourth floor.
Hey, I mean, he could still be
He's not.
nice. Okay. Clear that up in a minute,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I will. In addition to these, there's also a ghostly nurse. There's a tragic story in room 502, which we'll go into. And a nurse in white has been seen running down corridors screaming.
Oh,
Yep. And so the general phenomena. Visitors and investigators frequently encounter a variety of ghostly activity throughout the entire building. These range from things that are seen, full bodied apparitions of former patients, nurses, and even a man with a dog. Shadow figures are also a common sighting. Then there's the auditory phenomena, disembodied voices, screams, crying, moans, alongside with sounds from the building's past, such as doctors performing surgery or, unfortunately, incessant coughing. Footsteps as well. There are physical sensations. Some visitors experience feelings of intense sadness or fear, or they just feel really sick and like they can't really breathe, like their chests are congested in certain areas. Others report unexplained touches, such as cold hands grabbing their ankle or holding onto their own hands. So there are various types of hauntings within Waverly Hills. There are residual hauntings, which are sort of like recordings of the past. Um, these would be the historical sounds, like the moans and the doctors. And then there's phantom music from a piano, which isn't even functional anymore. People hear that pretty frequently.
but it was.
It was. It plays sort of like a broken record. It just kind of loops.
What does it play?
I don't know, but music from the 1920s is what it says. I don't know if there's a specific song that it's playing or if it's just something that whoever used to play it made up. There are intelligent hauntings. These involve spirits that are aware and can interact with the living, such as Penny rolling the ball, playing with visitors, the nurse in room 502, who has been known to respond to people's presence, sometimes by screaming at them.
I mean, that's a response. Some people deserve that, you know?
I mean, it is. Some people do. And some of these ghost hunting TV shows definitely have stepped into those territories. There are also non human entities. So some encounters are more menacing, reports describing shadow figures that feel more like dark, malevolent forces than lost people, such as the creeper. He's legless and is said to skulk through hallways. And again, he climbs walls. He kind of like looms on the ceiling. Just general creepy rape vibe. Not fun at all. There's also another massive shadow figure known as Big Black, who has been reported on the fourth floor. So both of these are on the fourth floor.
I mean, do they do scary things other than just hang out in their own home?
I don't know. I have never heard of anybody actually being attacked, but
I
if
mean,
it feels malevolent, I'm not gonna poke it with a stick.
okay, yeah, I mean, that's fair. But people are like, "Oh, he's scary because he climbed the wall." I mean, that's his wall,
It is, but they
so
also say that
he can do what he wants with it.
yeah, but they also say that it's very malevolent feeling. It gives you a yucky,
Okay,
dangerous, scary feeling.
and yeah, he's probably not cuddly. I
No,
gotcha.
not cuddly. And it is now storming here, so I don't know whether you guys are getting the atmospheric storm to go along with our haunted
Oh, I
history.
think I just heard the thunder.
Awesome. So hopefully that won't be too distracting,
That's
and we'll just
nice.
be yeah. So the location in Waverly Hills, there is room 502. People say there is a pervasive sense of dread, a disembodied female voice shouting "Get out!" that has been captured on EVP as well as people actually hearing it. So sometimes things can be recorded that you don't hear, and sometimes you hear things that are not recorded, but this is both. She is an apparition of a nurse in white, and she comes with feelings of great despair. It's the alleged site where a pregnant and unmarried nurse decided that she didn't want to be around anymore, and it happened in 1928. There's another story that says that she decided not to be around anymore by jumping off the balcony. Some say she hung herself, and some say that she cut her wrist. So it's not really clear how, but the sense of a nurse that did not want to be around anymore is kind of pervasive within Waverly Hills, and it occurs, and she appears in room 502. So within the bodysuit, there is a glowing orb of bluish purple light. It's been photographed moving up and down the tunnel towards investigators. There have been loud, unexplained slamming and banging sounds, even though there's nothing going on in there. Like they can hear the cart moving or it clanging into a wall or something like that. There are footsteps, disembodied voices, such as the orderlies chatting to one another while they're moving supplies or whatever else it is they're moving. One visitor reports being physically grabbed by the hair, and it is kind of the primary source of haunting within. Like it doesn't have the creeper, it doesn't have Timmy, but it's where more people experience something. If you're going to see something, it's probably going to be in a bodysuit. Then there are the fourth floor and patient wards. This is where sightings of the creeper and big black are. They are reports of possession, which I'm not sure exactly what that means, other than people not seeming like themselves when they're there or feeling irrationally angry, like it's not their own anger, irrationally fearful in a way that's not their own fear. So that's what they mean when they say possession, not as if like the Exorcist version of possession. So this is the floor where the most severe and isolated TB patients were kept, and it tends to come with a feeling of immense suffering and kind of an ominous darkness or feeling of despair. The third floor is the children's ward. That's where Timmy's at. He does, like I said, roll the ball back and forth between you and him. There's another child spirit there, including a little girl with no eyes. I don't know why that's reported, but she is. It's considered a place of extreme tragedy because the children were treated and many did die there. So it's pretty dark in nature. You don't want to think about children suffering in that way. But at
Or
least,
or
or
anyone,
anyone,
really.
no, but especially children. But at least the children there do seem playful. So EVP sessions have recorded the sounds of a swing, the get out, a child's voice saying, play with me. There have been footsteps, the 1920s piano music, whispers, growls, laughter, coughing, and one notable thing was found actually in one of the autopsy room was a repeated phrase, lungs hurt. Other things that they've seen,
That's so sad.
it is, it is. But you know, it is a TB hospital. It makes sense why they would say that. There have been unknown humanoid figures on thermal imaging, shadow figures walking and recorded by more than one team, and of course, the other spectral images that we talked about before. And those are the paranormal experiences that people have had at Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Well, that is super sad.
Yeah.
Um, I have the Shaker Village of Pleasant Hill. And so it's this it's a whole village that has been it's been restored with a lot of historical accuracy. It may not be perfect, but they put a lot of work into it. I haven't been there, although I do have a friend who was going to try to go for me. But she just finished a really, really long hike in New Mexico. And so when she got home to Tennessee, she the recovery was a little bit more than she expected. So she could not go trekking to Shaker Village for me, which is fine. I understand. And when I called them, I really couldn't speak with anybody. So I don't have any of that. No interviews or anything. I'm sorry. But I did try. But I haven't been there.
I have not been there
So
either.
at one point, you and I, we lived really close to it.
Yeah, but we were more concerned with
It
the
just
Bell
it was
Witch.
yeah, we this wasn't our thing at the time that we were living there. So it looks like a beautifully preserved place. The pictures make it seem really peaceful. The village was originally founded in 1805 by Shaker missionaries that were traveling from New York to Kentucky to seek new converts on the way and find a place to settle down. It was official by 1806 when gathering members formally signed a contract agreeing to live and work together on a hilltop spot they called Pleasant Hill. And this is a little more involved than just signing, a contract to live somewhere. Their way of life was pretty intense. They had a lot of worship times, which involved a lot of singing and dancing. They were celibate. They were a celibate group. They believed in equality of men and women, so they worked together respectfully and then lived separately to make sure that inequalities did not happen or, that the celibacy was not broken. They believed that it was a part of their spirituality. They actually called themselves the United Society of Believers in Christ's Second Appearing, which is a pretty long title. So I'm going to stick with Shakers. They believed in celibacy, the equality of men and women, shared property, and communal living. Their lives were centered on work as worship. So everything they did with a sense of pride because that was their form of worship. In a lot of ways, they were really ahead of their time in how they treated people, both within their group and outsiders coming in. Pleasant Hill was one of the largest and most successful Shaker communities in the United States. They had 600 members, 250 buildings, and thousands of acres of successful farmland by the 1850s. So they were self sustaining. The Shakers built advanced water systems. So well before plumbing was a thing, they had plumbing. The water was collected from a natural spring and pumped uphill into a storage tank and then sent downhill through pipes to everywhere in the village, which is really cool. They came up with that on their own and set it up before plumbing was even thought of in a lot of other places. They produced and sold brooms, preserves, seeds, and textiles, and they use local materials in their building, like limestone, clay, and timber for efficiency, local timber specifically. Their architecture was focused on simplicity, durability, and open interior space. So they had a very distinctive style. There was just a theme of peace through all of their aesthetics and general choices. Daily life at Pleasant Hill was very structured and communal. Men and women, so they did live separately, but they worked and did everything else together. And they kept things respectful and equal. They divided their time between labor and worship for their religion. They were known for singing and dancing during their worship time. And I actually read that's where they got the nickname Shakers. I had not known that before I did this research. And so I did still choose to go with that name. I don't think it was meant in a derogatory way. And I don't mean it in that way. So I hope that there's not any offense because it's definitely not meant. I mentioned that men and women, I mentioned several times that they were considered equal, which was really progressive for this time. They also advocated strongly for racial equality. They were actively pacifist, meaning that they protested any violence by not taking part under any circumstances. They took in orphans and converts out of kindness, but also to grow their community because they were celibate. So, yeah, they were not having children of their own. They believed that they would bring in converts, that were already there. And once the Civil War hit, there was a decline that started, a decline started that led to an official complete dissolution of the community in 1910. Things had gotten more industrial then, so their handmade goods were less in demand, and they were generally finding that less people wanted to join a celibate religious community. The community was overall, they were just getting older and they were less able to sustain themselves as they once had. The remaining members in 1910, when it dissolved, they transferred their property in exchange for care until their deaths. Last Shaker residents of this place, they died in 1923. A small rural community was left there called Shakertown, but many of the buildings fell into disrepair. A group of local people, they got together and saw what was happening to the buildings that were standing there and the community that had once been. And they made a nonprofit organization to restore the site in 1961 so that history could be preserved. Today, it is a living history site with regularly occurring education, agriculture, and hospitality programs. Pleasant Hill is considered one of America's most successful utopian communities. Even though it was religious in its formation, it had equality based ideals and was a great example of sustainable innovation and craftsmanship. 34 buildings and the layout of the village, generally, including the walkways, were carefully reconstructed to be just like they were in the mid 1800s. In the reconstruction, original construction methods and materials like limestone, brick, and the local timber were used, as well as original paint colors. They really put a lot of thought and care into bringing this place back to life in this way. They did research on which paint colors would have been used. The architectural details, like the beautiful staircases and the way that the space was used, was especially paid attention to. They even brought in archaeologists to study artifacts, soil patterns, and journals to make sure that things like fences and worship spaces were put back in their proper spots for this renovation. Some of those buildings, they were rebuilt, but they serve as hotel rooms, shops, museum exhibits, or dining spaces for guests now. So they don't have their original use. The structures are historic, but their use is modernized in order to keep the place going. Utilities like electric, plumbing, and HVAC were added, but evidence of them is concealed whenever possible to maintain the historic look and feel. And it kind of sets the mood for the spooky stuff. So, our stories about a phantom choir. A tour guide was on site getting ready for the day before opening, and as they were leaving one of the buildings, they could hear a full choir singing a Shaker hymn. They thought that they were alone there at that moment, but it wasn't really that alarming. It's a really distinctive sound on a quiet early morning. But it wasn't surprising because sometimes choirs were hired to come in and sing and just provide ambiance to the experience. So they just thought a group was practicing that they hadn't realized was going to come in. And so the song continues and they turn to look, as one does, but no one was there. There was no choir. In fact, there was no one else in that building at that time. This is actually something that has occurred for many people. They're able to talk about hearing a full choir close by and not finding a choir at all or anyone. There is a man who has been seen by employees, specifically a night security guard. So in the situation that I found, they claimed that there were no visitors because it was after hours. But there are hotel rooms and things there, so maybe they also meant that there were no guests, or maybe nobody was allowed in that section. But anyway, the guards saw a man walking along the main street dressed in traditional Shaker clothing. He ran outside to tell him that he wasn't supposed to be there because that's his job, and the man just disappeared. And according to this story, that was this guard's last shift. He he quit immediately the next morning. And I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if it was that spooky, but I mean, the guy was just taking a walk. It's all right. Calm down. I think my favorite one is from a guest who stayed overnight in the trustees building. They left a review about it. While they were lying down in the bed, they felt something sit on the bed with them several times. They also could hear the metal latch on the door being moved when nobody was near it until like the very early morning hours. So they're just hearing somebody play with this latch and they're like, okay, I guess that's my life now. And apparently at about 3 or 4 a.m., the sound repeated and the door opened. Like it sounded like it was being tugged open. And I guess the guests just stayed in bed and listened. And after about a minute, all the activity stopped and they just went back to sleep. So yeah, I think I would probably mention that in a review as well.
Yeah.
Like I stayed at this hotel and somebody kept crawling into bed with me and then they kept messing with the door. That's worth a mention.
Yeah. I thought this was a celibate area, and
Well, I mean, it didn't say they did anything non-celibate in the bed. They're probably just tired, you know? The most frequently reported strangeness is crying babies heard near the pond. They are heard at night very clearly, and the sound is directional. So every account places the sound as coming from the pond specifically. No one has been able to pinpoint exactly where outside of that because when people have looked, no explanation has been physically found. And there's not really a historical explanation or story tied to this. It's just the most often reported thing. And you hear a baby crying, you're going to look, and there's never a baby crying there. And I did find a collection of accounts in a book by Thomas Fries called Shaker Ghost Stories, and it's about that area. It was the stories collected over time from visitors and employees. Um, those accounts include hearing phantom footsteps in empty buildings, the sounds of work, like tools, things moving, or voices giving instructions, and visual apparitions coming and going, as well as the specific stories here that I said. One visitor said that they saw bright glowing eyes looking out from an attic window of one of the buildings. That one is not a common report. That was only one that I found that said that. So, but all of the reports kind of share the same vibe. It's very non-threatening, mostly just echoes of past presence, and nobody has ever been hurt. It's like they're just continuing in their daily movements, and we kind of get to see them. So that's the Shaker Village.
so you want to go?
The Shaker
Yeah,
Village? Yeah, I would go.
that's what I thought. I can usually tell, like when you're
I
like,
don't.
I want to go.
Yeah, I want to go to a lot of the ones that we've talked about. I think there was one that I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. There've been a couple that I'm like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Probably most of yours. I'm like, I'm all right.
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm not gonna go on that.
That's not. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, this one I would definitely
It
go.
sounds idyllic. Yeah, that's pretty. And the pictures are pretty. And also, they said they have air
They
conditioning now,
are.
so
That's very important
it
for
is. I'm not going if there's not AC. Sure.
sure. I okay. So my thing is I won't go if there's not parking. That's the thing that I look up. I've literally like driven to go somewhere and I can't find parking and I'm like, I'm just gonna go home. I'm out.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going for a 5 mile hike, but there's no parking by. What?
Not necessarily that, and there's always parking for the hikes that I go to. I'm talking of like if you go downtown, um, if there's no parking, I will go do something else. I just looking for parking enrages me. Or when someone makes you pay for parking, like hotels specifically, I'm paying for me to be there and my car is my guest. Like it should be
We're
included.
here
It
together,
just it makes me irrationally angry. I mean, sometimes you just have to suck it up and do it anyway, but yeah, that's one of those things that I'm just like, ugh.
right?
I mean, I've obviously done it. Like when I went to Baltimore, I had to pay for parking under the hotel, but it was not associated with the hotel. It was like, this is so stupid.
Yeah. And then there are times when you go to cities and you're like, okay, I can park in the hotel for free, but I can't park anywhere else. Okay, I'm just going to leave my car here and either walk or get mass transit wherever I'm going.
Yeah, I didn't like my car stayed
Yeah, it
there
lives here now.
as it does in big cities because, you can just walk. And if I can't walk to it, I don't know if I want to go. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. But my next one is
All right.
Mammoth Cave.
Yay.
Mammoth Cave,
I've been
I
there.
have to.
We already
Yeah,
said that.
we have. Mammoth Cave was formed over 300 million years ago when this area of Kentucky was beneath a sea in what was known as the Mississippian period. The system is primarily carved into three main formations of limestone: the St. Louis limestone, the St. Genevieve Formation, and the Gherkin Formation. Over all of these lies a stronger cap rock, which is the big cliffy sandstone, sort of acts as a protective covering for the cave system below. Limestone is very karstic. It is easily dissolved by water, which is why in this area of Kentucky, Tennessee, that sort of thing, you get sinkholes, which is problematic, and also cave systems. So once the sea had receded to expose the area, which happened about 10 million years ago, it was carved out by mildly acidic rainwater, and it so slowly dissolved the limestone beneath, and it was further formed by the Green River, which flows through the park. The system is currently mapped at over 420 miles of passageways, and there are still sections being discovered even today. It's a vast, multi-level labyrinth that contains massive chambers, vertical shafts, and hundreds of miles of underground waterways. It's home to many beautiful geological structures, such as gypsum flowers, as well as over 130 documented species, including 14 that are found nowhere else on Earth. These include the Kentucky cave shrimp, two species of eyeless cavefish, and something called the surprising cave beetle.
That is such a fun
It is
name.
really a cute name. There are 14 listed by the National Park Service, but there's not. It doesn't tell you like what all 14 are. It just says that there are 14. I'm like, well, what are the other ones? But they wouldn't tell me. So I find this problematic. I'm sure I could have contacted some biologist somewhere and been like, hey, I need to know. But my need was not quite that strong. It did not involve talking to strangers. I oppose. Or humans.
I tried to talk to strangers and I couldn't find one to talk to
I
me.
know you do the thing. I'm like, people. No, thank you. Mammoth Cave National Park is the world's longest known cave system. It's also considered to be one of the most haunted natural wonders. It has a history of over 150 documented paranormal events. These include the ghosts of former explorers, tuberculosis patients, and even one dark character from the chapters of fiction, which, let's be real, isn't our first fictitious ghost that has made itself known. So the first explorers of the cave were Native Americans who ventured into it between 4 and 5,000 years ago. They mined minerals from the walls using mussel shells, which they have discovered the remains of the shells, so they know that they did that. And they also lit their way with river cane torches, which have also been discovered. There's evidence of their presence in artifacts, as the aforementioned, woven sandals, ancient cave art, burial, and naturally mummified remains. The cave was put into use by European settlers in the late 1790s. Legend tells of a hunter named John Houghton who followed a wounded bear into the cave. And during the War of 1812, it became a vital source of saltpeter, which is a key ingredient for the making of gunpowder. After the war, the cave was transformed into a tourist destination, with the first tours beginning around 1816. It was a time that was defined by several famous guides, like Stephen Bishop, who was known as the Sable Genius. Bishop made significant discoveries and created the first accurate maps of the cave. Some of the other notable guys were Matt and Nick Bransford and Alfred Krogan, who also mapped miles of passages. In the 19th century, the cave became a popular attraction, bringing in notable people like Ralph Waldo Emerson. During this time, the cave also served as an experimental tuberculosis hospital that was in the 1840s and hosted church services. The efforts to establish it as a national park began in the 1920s, with the official establishment date being July 1st, 1941, which seems, kind of cool that we're doing this in July. So, yay. It was designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1981 and an International Biosphere Reserve in 1990. So the key spirits and phenomena are number one, Stephen Bishop. He was a cave guide in the 1800s who made significant explorations. He's buried in the Old Guide Cemetery. His apparition, which is described as a man in antique or old style clothes, is frequently seen carrying a lantern. He's most commonly witnessed on the Violet City Lantern Tour, which is lit only by kerosene lamps to recreate the original experience. I did not go on that tour.
Which tour?
The Violet City Lantern Tour.
Remember which tour I went
I
on?
didn't do that one because I didn't know it was an option.
I know it was a long one. It was like it was
Maybe
a
that's why I didn't do it.
hours. It was a long time.
Yeah. Some of the rangers believe that he is there checking on the newer guides and that he has helped lost visitors. One ranger once described seeing him as an older black man with a stick cane and a lantern standing on a steep ledge. So he's witnessed pretty frequently. Then there is Floyd Collins, and this is a much less pleasant situation. Floyd was a caver who tragically died in 1925 after being trapped by a rock in nearby Sand Cave for 2 weeks. His body was later retrieved and moved to a grave near the park. His spirit is said to haunt the caves and his gravesite. Reports include a male voice calling for help, objects being thrown, and a mysterious faint lantern light deep in the darkness that doesn't seem to get any closer as you try to approach it. Some guides have reported equipment mysteriously failing in areas associated with him. Some also believe that he is a benevolent spirit, with one woman who claims that his spirit caught her and drew her back from the ledge. So she credits him as having saved
Aw, well, I like
her. I
that.
like that, but just the idea of being trapped for 2 weeks and
Yeah, that is pretty
yeah,
horrifying.
that's not one of the ways I want to go.
Do you have a list?
Yeah, a lot of them involve caves. Like cave diving is not something I will ever do.
Right, but you have a list of ways that are acceptable for you to go?
Yeah, primarily in my sleep at an advanced stage.
I mean, I guess I hadn't I
I mean,
did you write the list
no,
out?
but I think I would accept anything.
It sounds so organized.
Me organized, right? I think I would just prefer anything
I
quick
think
and painless. The two.
well, I wanna live
I mean,
forever. I don't wanna die, so
that would be optimal.
I'm not gonna make that
But
list. I refuse.
that's fair.
I feel like with enough skincare and hope,
Mhm.
it'll be okay.
Yeah,
I eat a lot of
we can
kale.
do like
It's probably fine.
sunblock, and I have stopped consuming quite as much garlic in the hopes that vampirism will happen before too many wrinkles do.
Ah.
You know,
Well, there's no
as
game
a game
plan.
plan.
You have to go outside to find them, though.
What? Can't I just like? put a welcome mat down.
Yes, you could. Do you have a welcome mat?
No.
I do. But it doesn't say welcome. It's like a dumpster fire and it says, I'm fine, it's fine, everything's fine. So you know what you're getting into by knocking on my door.
Yeah, yeah. I had one that said no attendance except on party business, but I no longer have
So yeah, I mean you don't want just any vampire, so don't put out the welcome mat.
that one. I know. No, no. I don't want like the Nosferatu style. I don't like the front thing. I kind of want the canine thing.
So much thought you put into
Yeah.
this.
Right? Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
The pointy ears are cute though.
Okay, I do like pointy ears.
Okay. So next up we have Melissa, who is not a vampire but is fictional. She is a woman who, according to a fictional story written in 1858, was lured her unrequited lover deep into the cave, made certain he was good and lost, and then left him without a lamp so he would die in the darkness.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. So she loved him, but he didn't love her. So she gets him down in the cave and she's like, bye.
apparently.
Am I understanding that
Yeah,
right?
but that's the story. I mean, she's fictional, so it,
Gosh.
it, it doesn't make sense to
Oh,
me because, like,
no, it
if you
doesn't.
love him, why are you going to kill him? And also, I will get back. I will get to the not making sense part here in a second. But so her ghost,
Okay, well, there's enough
yeah, and
already.
already her ghost is said to wander the cave, calling out for her lost love. Which that's the part. That's the part that I'm like,
Again,
wait, you did it.
I know.
Why would you be wandering around calling out for him if you did it? Are you
But she loves him.
are you feeling guilt, remorse? What's this? There's some plot holes
Yeah.
here, which I'm not loving.
So many, so many holes in the story.
Some also report hearing a woman weeping or coughing, as legends also claim that she died of tuberculosis. So this could be people are hearing a woman weeping or coughing or calling for someone, but it's not actually the person from the fictional story because there were women in the tuberculosis hospital, and so that's the thing.
Right. I will say though that in the cave, the echoes are strange.
Yeah. So
And I was surrounded by people and I was on a tour, but you could hear like there would be moments I couldn't really quite hear the person next to me, but the person that's like 6 feet away, I could hear them.
that is pretty common.
It's the sound was
It
odd.
is.
So it could be contributing to
Yep.
this.
Most people believe that she is really just a phenomenon explained as pareidolia, which is the brain interpreting vague sounds as more specific voices or cries. She could be a different female, though, and her story was merely associated with the fictional writing. It's just not clear. It could be water, it could be a different people like calling or coughing or something on a side passage on a different floor.
Mhm.
I mean, sound travels
Right.
strangely, and this place is filled with water, which conducts sound better than air. So there's also
And there's new and unfamiliar sounds, and the environment itself, the way you're looking around, like it adds, your brain tries to make sense of the stimuli. And inside a cave, that's not a familiar space. They look different. And so your brain it's working harder to build these weird sounds and the things that you feel, because you'll feel a draft and you're like, I don't know where that came from.
and the cave breathes.
Yeah,
Like you can hear the cave breathing.
it does. You can feel it. Again, I wore a dress. There were updrafts often, and I'm like, "Where is that coming from?"
So there's also the Dr. John Croghan Tuberculosis Hospital. In the 1840s, Dr. Croghan built huts inside of the cave, believing that the constant 54-degree air could cure tuberculosis. Um, it didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if cave air is gonna cure anything.
No. So
That's
the
that's just the whole cure for tuberculosis. You should just go somewhere else about it.
Yeah.
Go to a cave. I don't know. Like,
I mean, really, it seems like everybody was like, "You should come here about it," or "You should not go there about it." There's no malaria.
I was gonna ask, was there malaria though?
I don't think so. So the colony was a failure, and many patients did die. Visitors can see the
Yeah.
remains of the hut and what's called corpse rock, which is where the bodies were laid out before removal. People have reported frequently hearing the sound of coughing in this area, shuffling feet, and seeing faint, very faint specters. So they're kind of seeing ghostly apparitions, but they're very, very faded. There's also a former church and cemetery within the park. It's a relic from the communities that was displaced when the park was formed. Paranormal investigators report having seen phantom faces in the windows, smelling vintage perfume, and experiencing persistent activity during investigations. All this is more with
Okay, what is vintage perfume?
I don't know what vintage perfume smells like, but that's what was described. I'm
His grandma could have just taken a tour down there wearing her favorite perfume. But again, what is vintage
I
perfume?
don't know.
How do you know? Because I mean, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Maybe it smells more like a perfume that was made from actual botanicals.
Maybe. Yeah. One of my favorite perfumes smells like actual roses
Yeah.
because it's rose oil.
A lot of these persistent activities during the investigations are seen as readings on equipment rather than anything specific as far as the church goes. So it's more like they're getting higher readings on their electrical scales, that sort of thing, versus seeing a specter or hearing something. I mean, some of them do see faces in windows, but or smell the perfume. But when they say they experience persistent activity, that's what they mean is their equipment is showing readings versus actually experiencing something. One of the other apparitions is known as Old Lewis. He was another early tour guide. His remains were reportedly moved to a tourist attraction, which did happen at this time period. They would sell them to carnivals and put them in like
Oh my
haunted house
gosh.
rides and stuff like that. It was not okay. Um, they would use them as like
How does that happen? Like, are people just paying respects to you and then like, so what do we do now? Should we bury him? Nah, I've got a great idea. There's a carnival
I
coming
mean, like
through.
this was a time
Like
period
what?
where people were using mummy wrapping as a cure-all and or paint.
Okay.
So this stuff happened. So his hauntings were they took place until his remains were returned to their grave or to a grave on the site. So until he was buried properly where he belonged, there was hauntings associated with Old Lewis, and he would appear around the cave entrance until his remains were laid to rest, and then he hasn't been seen since. Good. I'm glad he's resting now.
Leave that man alone.
Alrighty. There's also a small alcove along the main corridor where miners would gather for sermons. Visitors on the modern tours have reported witnessing or hearing rocks being thrown in the darkness and feeling tugs on their hair or clothing from unseen presences. Others say they've heard someone shushing them as if telling the tour group to quiet down.
Okay, I will say I have very long hair, which you know, but people listening might not. I did feel tugs on my hair sometimes.
I did too, but I just kind of assumed it was the wind.
Definitely same because there's drafts. But when you said that, I was like, I mean,
And it
yeah,
didn't really
and your brain tries to do
feel
stuff.
like pulling so much as it felt like my hair was being brushed aside or like just moved, like toyed with, like a little kid was
I
behind me in
felt
line or
a
something.
little cool, but yeah. But there's a lot of people nearby and it is really dark. At one point during my tour, like they turn off all the lights and it's entirely dark.
Yeah. And my hair
You
was a
can't
little past
see at
waist
all.
length at the time, so there's no telling what I mean. where it actually got stuck.
Maybe we were touched by ghosts. Or the dude behind us in the tour.
Entirely. Yeah. So the cave's environment itself can play tricks on the mind. The absolute darkness, the sound of water echoing, footsteps reverberating, these can easily create a sense of being watched or followed. Guides have stated that water moving can actually sound like a whole tour group, and many people feel like they're being chased because they are hearing what sounds like rushing footsteps coming towards them, even though it's just water in a passageway nearby.
Yeah, I did hear that. I didn't associate it with being chased or anything. It was just the way that sound works. Like, I was aware that sound was going to be
Yeah,
funky
but
going
if
down
you're
there.
already a little afraid of the dark, because maybe you're on one of the kerosene tours, whatever it is, or you don't like enclosed spaces a lot, or you've gone in with a heightened sense of anxiety, I can see why it would make you feel like you're being chased if you're hearing that rushing sound coming towards you, or even the breathing, because it'll get louder and quieter, so it sounds like it's coming towards you.
Yeah.
So I can see that. So yeah, they do say that a lot of it that people are hearing things, especially witnessing things, not so much, but hearing things, they do think a lot of it is just the cave itself, being an unusual atmosphere.
Being a
Yeah,
cave. Yeah.
and
That's what it
caves are cool.
does. Not to die in, though, apparently,
No, no,
according to your
according to
list.
my list. But I mean, some of these seem like pretty benevolent spirits, except for Melissa, who is fictional.
Damn it, Melissa.
Anyway, what is the last thing you have for us today in Kentucky?
Okay, so I have the Harrington Lake Monster, aka Harry or the eel-pig.
eel-pig.
Yep. So, Harrington Lake is a deep man made reservoir south of Lexington that was created in 1925 by damming the Dix River. It's about 249 feet deep, which means it is the deepest lake in Kentucky. Before the Dix Dam flooded the valley to create a hydroelectric reservoir, the area was filled with farms, roads, and small communities that were all permanently submerged as the water filled in. This dam was unusual in that it was built by a private utility company rather than being a federal project. I know we've spoken about, you know, damming in communities before, and those have usually been federal things, but this was private. It was driven by the rapid demand for electricity instead of recreation or conservation. Because of that, the land had to be acquired and cleared quickly. The construction was also swift, which left room for dangerous mistakes. The workers all came in and lived in a temporary camp that was set up roughly with about 2,000 people camping together at its, height. And that area was known for gambling, drinking, prostitution, and just generally not very genteel behavior. Around 30 workers died during construction. Many of those deaths were tied to the dynamite blasting along the cliffs. They were not taking precautions the way that would be taken now with all the rules and restrictions, but also, I mean, they were moving quickly. Along with the roughness of the living conditions and the danger of the working conditions, there were racial tensions as well, inciting violence often in the camp and on the work site sometimes. So the rapid transformation and the change in community, because remember, these people all had to get out of their homes quick, a camp had to come in. This, these were, this was a big change. All of those things kind of laid some groundwork for some sort of folklore to come out of this area. The lake itself has sudden drop offs in cold, dark, deep water with limited visibility. So the area is eerie by itself with the history and the landscape. They There have been consistently, unsettlingly specific descriptions of something lurking in the water. A very fast moving animal with the long, slick body of an eel, a pig like snout, and a curly tail started being reported in 1972. It's often said to be 12 to 15 feet long, so this is not a small creature. It was first reported by University of Kentucky professor Lawrence S. Thompson. In August of 1972, he clearly explained that he had seen a creature with a snout, a hump, and a long trailing tail moving quickly through the water. It was dismissed as debris, but he held his ground, stating that he had seen distinct ripples and independent movement. He saw it several times, and he stuck by it despite skepticism. And he even offered, skeptical possibilities himself and said, "This is why it's not that." The sightings were in the sunlit early morning hours when the lake was calm and visibility was clearer. He was also very careful in how he described it. He never claimed to see the whole creature at once, but in pieces, like a snout breaking the surface, possibly a hump mid body, and a long tail trailing 12 to 15 feet behind where those things were happening. The movements that he saw were very deliberate, definitely intentional rather than drifting, and he saw clearly that the water formed distinct ripples around the snout and tail. There were those who believed him because they'd already suspected something lived in the lake. They just hadn't been as outspoken about it as the professor had. Some even claiming citing themselves that they'd previously, just not said anything about. But now that he was speaking up about it, people were backing him up. The fact that a university professor made the claim gave it weight, and local newspapers picked up the story quickly. There were obviously still skeptics, even with that, some even claiming that he was drunk, but the professor continued to argue that unknown or misidentified animals do exist and compared it to historical cases where monsters, quote unquote, turned out to be real animals people just didn't recognize yet. His claim carried weight because he was educated, methodical, and precise, and he did not exaggerate. And I said before, he even offered the skeptical explanations himself, but did not back down from the reality of what he had seen. There were other people that reported seeing it as well since then. While it's been intermittent recently, the stories are persistent and this remains unresolved. And so we talked about the other explanations, the ones that I found that were given were it could have been a giant catfish or alligator gar. Those fish can get really large. It's kind of terrifying to think of them being 12 to 15 feet long, but okay. Floating debris or optical illusions on deep water have been offered as solutions. Some people have even thrown in the possibility of an alligator, which is pretty improbable, but not impossible. Honestly, when you only see part of something in dark water, your brain fills in the rest. But the sightings were detailed, repeated, and publicly defended. The witnesses, especially Professor Thompson, are credible and consistent. So while it does seem a bit silly, there is room left to wonder, what if?
So what do you think?
I mean, he's not wrong. There were animals that were just misidentified until, we figured them out. Historically, it has happened. That's a logical argument. I wasn't there, but why not? What if?
The problem I have with it is that this is a man-made lake.
Mm, it's true, because that would be a really weird evolution.
Like, where did it come from if this is a man-made lake?
Um, the animosity taken big eel form. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
And why a pig?
But weirder stuff has happened. Dude, like if you're gonna make something up, that's not what I would have gone with.
Right?
So that almost gives it more credibility because it's ridiculous.
It is.
But again, it's kind of fun to think what if.
I don't
but I
I
haven't
don't
seen
want to
it,
think what if,
and
because
I don't know that I want to see it.
no. I mean, not that.
Are you gonna see that in your dreams tonight? It's Harry
Ah,
is the name.
oh, I thought. Sorry, for a minute I was like, hairy, aquatic. Yeah, no,
No, the Harrington Lake monster is so hairy.
that's fine. But like
Um,
a hairy aquatic. Mm-mm. That gives me the ick.
yeah, now I'm thinking about that too. Thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
What do you think? Do you think it's possible?
I mean, like, yeah, giant catfish are a thing. Alligator gar can get pretty big.
Yeah, they can. They're not as flexible as an eel, though. Like an eel's body
That's true.
trailing looks very different than a catfish or an alligator gar.
That is true. But an alligator, it can move in a kind of sinuous motion,
Mm,
which again
I don't
doesn't
love
look like a
alligators.
pig. But
Right? I mean, I hope. I don't.
mm,
I don't know.
there's also bull
Is the
sharks,
pig thing that's doing
which freak me out.
in a lake?
Dude, bull sharks have been found as long as they were in the waterway when it got dammed up and they were small enough, they could still be there. Bull sharks can be
Hey,
in,
here's a theory. Here's a
but
theory. They just so people quickly left their homes, right? Really quickly, like suspiciously quickly. And they didn't really do checks. They didn't even check the dynamite before they didn't even check to make sure workers weren't around when they set off the dynamite. So they were not going door to door in these homes. What if someone left their pets behind
like what?
and they had aquatic pets?
I have a giant eel in an aquarium.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, all right. No, so yeah, let me horrify you. Bull sharks can live, and they've been like they can live in fresh water, and they have been found as north as you. hmm They have swam all the way up to Mississippi as far as you.
You ask them to stop it.
I did. They creep me out. I
Did you
cannot with
write
a bull
a
shark.
letter?
It's sort of I think with them they're like, no, we can eat you because we can't read. It's sort of like me feeding quokkas. I can't read the sign, so I'm gonna feed the quokkas and you're just gonna have to arrest me.
They're so cute. What do they
I
expect?
know, right? Like I no, I'm sorry. Arrest me.
Let me give him all my food first.
Oops, I dropped my bag of snacks.
So we're doing Louisiana next, right?
Yes,
Yes. All right.
I'm pretty
I
sure we
have no
can
idea what
find
I'm doing yet. Do
some
you?
swamp monsters and some vampires and all kinds of other fun things for Louisiana. And if
Okay.
you know of
All
something
right.
cool, email us at tenebrous.tingles@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your stories.
Not about bull sharks, though.
I mean, I will take stories about bull sharks. I will. They horrify me, but I still want to hear them if you've got them.
Okay. I'll let you read those. So yeah, please tell us your Louisiana stories or any other state if you just want to throw them in here. We would love to hear that. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Bye.